And we have, as always, full agenda. We will jump right in. The first item on the agenda is for VOAD, Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster. And with apologies, we don't have somebody from VOAD here. You do have their request in the attachments that were sent. And I'm just going to give a quick background. And I know that Councilwoman Johnston has also been involved in some of this conversation. So if you recall in some of the previous where I was putting together like our future agendas, you saw Hands on Nashville and the Community Resource Center. And that came up during actually our fiscal 23 budget conversations. And it's kind of been floating around since then. And Hands on Nashville and CRC are two organizations, but they aren't the only organizations that assist Metro during disaster response. They're not just assisting Metro, they're assisting Nashville and those that are impacted by the disaster, whether it's flood, tornado, a man-made disaster. So, but those two organizations are members of VOAD. And so VOAD for Davidson County has, dozens of nonprofits that come together to assist individuals impacted. And their goal is to have a cohesive collaborative that trains and is prepared and has the capacity to respond on any given, day, minute of a disaster. Historically, there have been some gaps in VOAD. And we saw that happen sometimes during some of our disasters where things were having to kind of get put back together on the fly rather than having a defined network and process ahead of time. So in 2021, VOAD kind of relaunched and has a little bit of a more structure to it. And so the idea was that if we provided some funding for VOAD and what you saw in their request, is how they would use the funds really from a, building capacity, building a structure and having something. And this would be a bit of a pilot program in the sense that Metro does not currently fund VOAD or any of its partner agencies on an ongoing budget process. But the idea would be to use these funds as a bit of a pilot program to say, okay, what kind of impact can we have in a continuing cohesiveness during non-disaster times if we can provide some capacity building and funding through a $50,000 grant. So their request is $50,000. About halfway through, you see the funding request for ARP funds. You can see the preparedness pilot outline from risk assessment, planning, preparation, and evaluation, and some of the documentation that goes with that. Councilman Johnston, did you want to say anything? Let me get your mic. Oh, you don't have hold on.
Thank you. So this is sort of, I actually tried to amend the budget to fund Hands on Nashville and the CRC, and that didn't pass, obviously. But we've learned through ongoing conversations that it's probably better to fund VOAD in general, because that's sort of the hub, kind of like OEM is the hub for the city's response. VOAD is the hub for our partner nonprofits that also respond in disaster. And I know all too well, and so does Council Lady Sepulveda, as well as with the flood, and then Council Lady Gamble with, you got affected by the tornado, didn't you? Not too much, but part of the reason that response was from our perspective anyway, or mine, I don't want to speak for you, Sandra, but was sort of discombobulated, I think is a good word for it, is because VOAD disbanded in 2016, I believe, because we'd gone so long without a disaster. It's like, well, what's the point of having VOAD, which is Volunteer Organizations Active in Disaster? Why do we have this if, everything's fine, nothing's gonna happen, and then the whole world fell apart starting in 2020. So that was the reason why, is nobody knew what to do. Everybody wanted to do something and everybody was available, but nobody had really any direction. And so it was there's a lot of duplicative effort. There was a lot of just chaos. And so it's important to understand that there are two different responses when we have something bad happen. There's the city's response that they're going to come out and make sure the right of way is cleared out. They're going to make sure utilities are back. They're going to make sure that the immediate risk of safety for people's lives is taken care of. And then they go away, really. After that, as far as who's really servicing who we represent, the taxpayers, is our nonprofit organizations. And they're the ones, we just closed out the last case from the flood like 2 weeks ago. And it's been a year and a half. So it's an ongoing thing, but that's really where we touch people's lives. And so it's important to me, if we have an MOU with the city to provide such an important response in such a devastating time, whatever it may be, to be able to fund that, to make sure that they do have the resources they need to be prepared. Yes, they get reimbursed for expenses once things happen, but there's ongoing training. And like they're saying, they did a beautiful job of, I hope you took a chance to at least skim over it to see exactly what we're talking about. And it's a small ask. I would give them more, to be honest with you. It's such a huge, important thing for us as representatives to have that infrastructure in place when the worst happens. And this is just a small amount of money that goes a long way. And so I'm happy to answer questions or whatever. It's been a long road. I think it needs to be a part of our operating budget moving forward. And so I appreciate the opportunity to have ARP funds go towards it, to show, hopefully we don't have to prove that we're prepared with a disaster actually happening, but to show that it is good dollars spent from a countywide preparedness perspective.
Great. Sarah Finley.
Yeah, thanks. I am a huge proponent of VOAD and the importance of having this organization be functional. One question I had when I was reading through this is, $50,000 for a pilot project, as Courtney said, it's not a lot of money, but it can be very meaningful money if there's someone in charge that is sort of making the decisions and doing it. But I think of VOAD as an alliance, and so if there's no real leadership structure or any party that's responsible for making this pilot, run effectively, then first of all, that wasn't clear to me, but I think that's essential for this $50,000 to really produce a result that we're proud of. Yeah.
So I can answer that. They do have that right now. The president or the chair of VOAD is Lori Shitten, who is the leader or director of Hands on Nashville. And then at the beginning of the year, they will switch. I think they're switching, but at the very least, the chair will be with CRC.
Tina Denning.
Tina. So they do have leadership. They do meet regularly, and they actually have been working on an actual written plan so that everyone is on the same page of what to do when things happen, regular training, all those types of things. So it's actually very, very organized, and they're in the very end process of sort of tweaking that plan that will be presented to council. I believe I'd ask them. I feel like it's important to train us so that we know what's going on, and also for the public. And so that's part of the budget. But to your question, they definitely have organization and leadership, and it's a pretty well-oiled machine at this point, because they're the ones that took the brunt of the chaos, because it was their organizations that were thrown into the mix, and it was just nuts. And so they were having to sort of organize and react and do their jobs at the same time. So it makes it easier for them actually to have that organization. So.
And I think they did discuss an executive committee in this document and succession planning. And that was the big thing that they didn't have, is they put in a defined succession plan. So they're not scrambling every year to find a new president, that there's now a prescribed plan for who gets that role each year.
And that's another reason why we sort of felt like VOAD was a better place to place money, because who knows if CRC will always be around. I mean, a lot of these organizations will sort of ebb and flow in and out. Their leadership changes, their whatever, maybe a new organization will come in, who knows? But VOAD itself, the core of that will always be there. And so it's just, it's a more, I don't know the word, it's just,
There'll be consistency now.
yeah, consistent, that's the word.
Okay, I've got Councilwoman Sepulveda and then Councilwoman Gamble.
Great, thank you. I think something like this is definitely needed. I just had a couple of questions. I agree, when the flood happened, that's hard and people start scrambling. We are thankful for the nonprofits that step in. Having something organized all the time would be very helpful. I wonder, my question is, would this include fires? Because we've had several apartment fires in Southeast, I think around 9 now. Would you happen to know?
So yes, anytime, sometimes not the entire VOAD is a part of it, but those partner agencies are like Hispanic Family Foundation was huge in the 2 apartment fires that were in my district. So yes, it helps just in general to have that funding for ongoing training and preparedness and risk assessment and all those types of things. So the answer to that is yes, any type of disaster, whether it be natural or man-made, and I don't know, sometimes a fire is, I don't know, but the answer is yes.
Yeah, you're going to have somebody like Red Cross, which is part of VOAD, probably be the first organization that's going to respond with the like an apartment fire, but because of Red Cross's membership in VOAD, when they see the greater need, they can pull in the other resources of VOAD.
Perfect. So the money would be used for training, but it wouldn't, there's no money if people need to be housed temporarily or anything
Correct.
like that.
This is not
just
for
training.
direct service.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Councilwoman Gamble?
Thank you, and I'm so happy to learn about this organization. I was not aware of VOAD until this request came in, and reading about the work that they've been doing and how they're trying to scale their services through their partnerships. I just have 2 questions. I do appreciate the work they're doing and think we should support it. I was a little bit confused about the memorandum of understanding, and so is that with the partner organizations, not with Metro?
There are, it is related to this, but it's separate from VOAD. Hands on Nashville and the Community Resource Center, along with United Way, there are a couple faith-based organizations. They have MOUs with Metro through the Office of Emergency Management to provide particular services during a disaster response. So Hands on Nashville does have an MOU that says they will be our official volunteer organization and help coordinate volunteer efforts. CRC is the official, like, in-kind. So if people have items to donate, United Ways is to operate 211 and have the disaster information. So they all have kind of their niche, but all of those that I just mentioned are part of VOAD. So there isn't an MOU. I don't think there's an MOU with VOAD and OEM, but some of the individual nonprofits that are part of VOAD do have individual MOUs.
Okay. And do we know if there is discussion or consideration for VOAD to have a MOU with Metro, or we think that's not needed since most of the partners already have one?
I don't want to speak for OEM, but I think what I have learned, and some of this is because I worked at Red Cross and United Way, that's why I know this, is that that's why they have the individual ones, but VOAD is part of just its own collaborative that tries to keep all of those organizations talking to each other and knowing kind of who does what at the moment the disaster happens.
So how do they run their operation? Is that through donations, through corporate partners?
So VOAD has historically received funding that is raised. And so one of the MOUs is with Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee, and they are the fundraising arm for Metro during a disaster. And some of those funds that are raised do get awarded to VOAD so that during the disaster response, there are funds. But what we were saying is that doesn't when there's no disaster, there's no funds. And so then sometimes the kind of the core structure of VOAD would just get weak. You know, you'd get organizations that would leave, or an individual was the chair and that person left the nonprofit, so then nobody took over. And so it would somewhat disband. And so that the idea is, if there was ongoing operational funding, to have practices and training and meetings and just some funding that would allow them to keep a structure all the time.
One last question. So the $50,000 request for this program for preparedness, disaster preparedness, and risk assessment, is that, you mentioned a pilot, so is that just for 1 year? Is that just for one segment? Okay, so I guess when we look at sustainability, this is something that we probably need to include in our operating budget going forward.
And this is a
but
little
this
bit
would
of-
be the springboard for
Yep,
it.
and it's kind of providing the data and the proof of the impact of, you know, what the funds can do, which should give a little bit more comfort, confidence that it's a good budget item.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Yep, and I did confirm with them that Community Foundation is their fiscal agent. There is a fund at Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee specific to VOAD. So this $50,000 grant would actually be payable to CFMT for the benefit of VOAD. All right, do you have another question? And then okay.
That's really all I was going to say, is just to make sure that the money is not going to, we're not just going to write a check to VOAD. It does go to the Community Foundation. There's transparency there. It's been there. They do sort of some of their own fundraising, not a whole lot, but for example, to maintain the website, where I don't know if you were NashvilleResponds.com, that. And just informational stuff to people so that they know. I mean, all that stuff kind of costs money, so they started doing some fundraising. So it's already in place. We would just be funding really people, to be honest.
Councilman Sepulveda?
Yes. 2 questions. Is this just for natural disasters, or if there was a community emergency such as something similar to Morristown, where you have a factory that was raided by ICE, and then we had a bunch of families who were struggling, kids not going to school, et cetera, things of that scale? Is that part of their training?
I don't think so. I'm sorry, I don't want to. It's much more natural. I mean, it's much more about disasters, more by traditional definition, whether they're natural or man-made, but I don't want to, I can't say for sure.
So the MOU that we're talking about is related to the SIMP, which is the city's emergency response plan. And so anytime the city, and OEM is the one that flips that switch, like, this is, okay, we gotta go. That is when they are activated.
Okay.
And so sometimes it's like the bombing, they helped with that, which is obviously man-made. What you're talking about is a little bit more specific, and so I don't necessarily know the answer, but it's volunteer organizations active in disaster, and that doesn't say just natural disaster. It's disaster anytime it's a situation where the city and our nonprofit organizations would normally come together to respond, to take care of not only the city needs, but the individual needs within that disaster.
That makes sense. Okay. That would be helpful. I mean, there's that flexibility to it if needed. And then my second question is, do we know who the partners are? It says recruit a total of 51 partners. I guess we probably don't have that list, and I always say, making sure that we have those marginalized groups represented, which I'm sure will be. So the partners wouldn't be receiving funds directly. Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions or a motion?
I also kind of wanted to just test the waters and see if anybody has a thought process on making this a larger 75,000, maybe 100,000. I don't want to necessarily make the motion to cause drama, but is there an appetite for that? And the reason I say that is because they're coming up on the beginning of their fiscal year, which they're different than ours. They're from January through December. So if this passes, they will receive money in January, which is the beginning of the fiscal year. Works out really well. And hopefully we can get it into the operating budget as an ongoing allocation, which I think is just putting my 2 cents in. I feel like that's very appropriate. But I'm just wondering to get a good head start on that in case it doesn't get put into the operating budget, to sort of answer that question of sustainability, to give us a little bit of extra time. I don't know. That's up to you guys. Otherwise, I will make a motion to approve.
We could say, because we're kind of straddling 2 different fiscal years, if you did 75,000 through June 30 of 24, it takes a little bit of the pressure off the FY 24 Metro budget, but it also gives them coverage all the way through their end of 23. So,
I'll make that motion for discussion.
second? Any other questions? I got a question from, go ahead, Sarah.
Mary Jo, just given the fact that the money rests at the Community Foundation, and I'm on the board of the Community Foundation, I don't feel like I should vote. I didn't realize
Okay.
that that's actually how the flow of
That is
funds
where it's
occur.
going. Duly noted.
Just one question for clarification. So now the motion is 75,000 for the emergency response preparedness training outreach program through June 2024. Okay. So in that regard, hopefully they'll be able to do more
Right.
than
If they
what
still
they
came
initially
into
had
the
asked for.
FY 24 budget, they could do more, but if not, they at least have something to get them through that timeframe.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I'll just renew I think we had a second. Any other questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so then I have 6 in favor, 0 against, and 1 abstention.
I'll be lead on that, please, if you don't mind.
All right. Thank you all for that. Okay, next up on the agenda, we have Judge Rachel Bell from the Music City Community Court. If you want to come up, Judge Bell, we'll have you at one of these microphones. She gets the prize for the quantity of content that you all had. And I did ask her to just kind of give us a summary. I tried to give you all a little hint that it was the 150-esque.
Afternoon.
There's room for both of you.
Does it matter which one I sit on?
No? I'll get your mic.
I hand out folders for each one of you.
Perfect.
Give you all the other things.
Just talk into the mic, though. Can I get one? Thank you.
Afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Begin.
Oh, sorry, hold on. I had the wrong one.
That one works?
Or try yours again. There you go.
Okay. Hello? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for giving us the opportunity today to come and present to you on behalf of the Music City Community Court. We did propound or give you some information a couple of days ago. I know it's pretty voluminous. It's about 60-some pages, but I wanted you to have all the information that we've been handing out and preparing across the city to ask for continued help from the city for the Music Community Court, the specialized diversionary court named Legacy. Legacy is Let Every Goal Achieve Continuous Yields, and it's the housing resource diversionary court that was created. Its at first for MDHA. And in 2019, we met with Harmison, and then we met with Saul Solomon, and then we met with the new director, Tony Harris, now to move forward in having stipulation agreements or settlement agreements for individuals living in MDHA. This was before we knew that there was going to be a COVID-19 crisis. We did have training from a judge in New York called Red Hook Community Court there in New York, and they set up a great program for their government housing and having a judge with the community court and an attorney to assist only with government property, so MDHA, Section 8. So we got started, and then COVID hit, and the moratoriums were put in place. We got a call from Mayor Cooper, senior advisor, who asked us to see if we could make this court for the city and not just MDHA. And we belabored a number of different partners, community meetings with Legal Aid Society, Nashville Conflict Resolution Center. We used the Tennessee Supreme Court Alternative Dispute Resolution Plan that they had implemented in December of 2020. And when we developed this court and had some training again from the judge in New York and different sessions to figure out how we would actually create this court for our city when the moratorium ended in the end of December. And then we launched virtually in February, and then the courts opened back up in March, and we've been in business working with our landlords to be compensated and our tenants to keep a roof over their head. Since that time, in your folder on page 3, you'll see that we broke down the evictions that have been filed in the city of Nashville when the Housing Resource Diversionary Court was in place, and then when the Housing Resource Diversionary Court was not in place. In 2019, there was 11,505 eviction cases filed in Davidson County. And as you see, the Housing Resource Diversionary Court wasn't in place. There was no cases coming with case management or helping the landlord or the tenant access funds. In 2020, 6,301 cases were filed, and no cases were coming to the housing court. It was the eviction crisis, and we weren't able to launch and get ready just yet. But we did launch in 2021, and you'll see out of the cases that were filed in 2021, which is 7,298 cases, 5,846 were able to come through our courts and work with our housing court navigators and our team. And then the same in 2022, 10,760 cases were filed, and 3,079 of those cases are currently being processed or being worked on with us, with our Housing Resource Diversionary Court. What's happened since that time is that we have always been short-staffed. I've taken my court officers, and when we're done with court, I ask them to go work and do something else. Not just being a court officer, I've always dual purpose my staff. I was able to get staff for the care diversionary court, which is ages 18 to 30, and that's how we learned how to develop the housing court. But using one person to continue those efforts is not, we're not capable, it's not feasible, and it's not fair to that individual. We have two courts, Courtroom 1A and Courtroom 1B, and we house our program facilitators outside of Courtroom 1A and 1B to help landlords and tenants get access to resources, and then also to see if they could get Legal Aid Society and or a lawyer to work with them. And so in all those phases, I'll give you a little background just real quick. We started with phase 1, which I told you, with the MDHA. And then phase 2, that's when all the cases were transferred automatically because of COVID-19. It was 1,800 cases that were transferred to us with an order. And then in phase 3, there was an ERAP funds that came with MAC, and we created the MAC HOPE program, and we partnered with them. And then we realized that housing court navigators needed to be a part of the program. I was able to present at the White House Eviction Prevention Summit. At that meeting, it was told by President Biden and Gene Sperling, the senior advisor, that every court that was creating a diversion opportunity should have housing court navigators in the courthouse to work with people that are facing eviction, to assist the landlord, to assist the tenants, not giving them legal advice, but Legal Aid Society would come in and give them right to counsel, where we would be boots on the ground instead of leaving people in despair and tell them, go down the street, or here's a flyer. We would be right there walking with them, helping them along the journey, and then having the ability to get into Charity Tracker, which I'm sure a lot of y'all know about. In the courthouse right now, if there's a tenant that's going through something, we sit there with them right when they're done with court, whatever the judge ruling is we'll put them in charity tracker. This person's facing eviction, they need an attorney. This person's facing eviction, they need housing. This person needs only $1,000 to keep this roof over their head. Are there any funds from any of the nonprofits or any of the churches that are willing to assist? We also are giving them the legal information that they have a right to have an attorney. They also have a right to have their case continued for 15 days, and that's by law. They have a right for that, but a lot of people don't know their rights, and they're scared, and they're nervous, and we can't monitor it without housing court navigators. Metro Action Commission's funds dried up for those positions, and so now we're stuck with one of my employees doing the very best he can, and right now he's just running around. I don't even know how he's making it every day, trying to assist both the courtrooms, eviction courtrooms downstairs, and then he'll get pulled to a courtroom upstairs where the individual dealing with a criminal matter in one of the criminal courtrooms. Instead of them sending them down to 1A, 1B, they want this physical person, which is great, to come to the courtroom and give them case management or some assistance. We're at capacity, and we don't have enough staff to continue to work in the efforts that we have put in place for the last 2 years. I am asking for 2 positions, one that is a licensed social worker, so they'll know how to handle it and the capacity of it, and another individual who will be a resource services officer, but also a case manager. What I have seen, even though this work is not hard, you kind of have to understand case management and social work. Anybody that's dealt with social work, you really need to know what you're doing. You could spend 2 hours trying to figure something out that a licensed social worker could probably figure out in 15 minutes. And I would like to see that we get some licensed individuals to help in this space. This is first impression across the country. This is very, very new to the courts across the country, but the country is moving in this direction. And we were there, and now we're not because we don't have the positions anymore. I am repurposing one of my positions to pause some other work that we've been doing for the last 11 years, to put them in place because I know that it's a priority, it's very important. But we're kind of stuck right now with how we can continue this good work. Legal Aid Society is moving into the phase, I call it phase 6, where they'll be there twice a week with right to counsel, which you have Monday, you have Tuesday, you have Wednesday, you have Thursday, and you have Friday. And the lawyers need somebody to connect them, the tenants and the lawyers need, the landlords and the tenants need somebody to connect them to the lawyers for Legal Aid Society. It's going to be extremely challenging and difficult if we're not able to have staff there Monday through Friday and able to reach back and check on them, make sure they know about their court dates. I've seen myself how frantic a lot of people are. The numbers right now, and I know a lot of questions are, what's the uptick? In August, there was 216 evictions filed in Davidson County. In September, there was 186 evictions filed in Davidson County. In October, there was 220 evictions filed in Davidson County. In November, it's 383 evictions filed in Davidson County. And now, just in the first 2 weeks of December, we have 600 evictions that have already been filed in Davidson County. The uptick is happening, and we have an accessibility, affordability, and availability issue. I do want to introduce Andrew Dick. He is my program manager for all of the programs that you see, and we have a lot of programs, but he assists and helps put the data together, get the research. But I'm very glad that he's here with me today, but that is the presentation. The other documents, just wanted to kind of give you the basis of how we got started, the press releases, the information, the flyer, the flow, and how we've continued to work. The court docket on Tuesday afternoon is going to be still available, but a lot of landlords are not going to transfer the case over to a Tuesday afternoon docket because there's no ERAP funds or there's no care grant funds paying up to 18 months. Now it's going to be, maybe we'll work with you. Maybe we'll see. No, I want my house back by law in 10 days. But if we have case managers in place, we can at least get the 15 days to get them connected to Legal Aid Society and then get them connected to resources. And even if they do have to leave, we can make sure they have a roof over their head and then they're just not just put out within those 10 days. So that's what I'm asking and seeing what we can do as a city to help us in that effort.
All right, so I've got I've got a little bit of a queue. I've got y'all. And I'll just do one quick connection because I was talking to Judge Bell, and this committee is very familiar with several of the things that you mentioned. And so I'm going to connect a few dots just if it's helpful. So Right to Counsel is with Legal Aid Society and Conexión, and this committee made that recommendation for funding. ERAP is the Emergency Rental Assistance Program that MAC has delivered, I believe now over $75 million in rent and utility assistance. This committee has also made funding to United Way for families and individuals that were just outside of the criteria for the emergency rental for MAX program. So there are a lot of pieces of, there's resources out there, but these two positions are the connectors. So these two positions then were being funded under MAX emergency rental. They had, there was admin pieces of that could cover some of this case management, but because that's essentially finished and depleted, the request is for the two positions that are the connectors to all of those resources that might have sounded familiar. Because my first question is, are we duplicating? And that's what I really wanted to get at, is this is not a duplication of any of those resources. It's connecting those who need it to all of those resources. All right. I had Sarah first, and then I'll go in order.
First of all, thank you for being here to present, Judge Bell. When I think about going back to the core of CARES Act and our, dealing with people that are displaced by this pandemic, to me is one of the core reasons that we all came here. And I'm a big proponent of this program because I feel like it gets to the core. Nashville has affordability and availability issues even without a pandemic, but you add a pandemic on top of it, and it's really a pretty wicked combination for a lot of families. So I think continuing this and providing these positions makes an awful lot of sense. I guess I have one question, which is, I noticed the 2022 referrals are at 28%. Do you anticipate that number growing? And as they continue, and it sounds like the last 3 months have been really high, what are you seeing in terms of the volume that kind of gets transferred?
Thank you for that question, and thank you, Ms. Finley. What we're doing right now, I put together another steering committee so we can figure out what we're going to do with this asset that we have, this diversionary court that we have. I envision two things. The first one, which is an immediate fix, if you will, 1A and 1B are the courts where all our evictions are filed every day. The program navigators will be assigned to both of those courtrooms. If we assign them to both of those courtrooms, not to transfer the case, if they won't transfer the case to the diversionary court, for us to get them connection to resources or assets, then the case manager is still working with them, and we will still get them connected to the assets and the resources, giving them their legal right that they can get a continuance for 15 days. The law provides it and the law allows it. If we can make sure that every case is filed for eviction, unless it's a crime or some issue, that my colleagues understand we're doing that. City of Nashville has asked us to do this. This person is particularly maybe going to get evicted, but they have case management to get them connected to the lawyer and the resources. It still be a function of the Housing Resource Diversionary Court. They'll still be under that umbrella. We do have a specialized docket for individuals if they want to come to an afternoon docket. What I'm hearing from the lawyers, and I'm hearing from some others, they don't want a specialized afternoon docket. They want to still do it in the mornings with 1A and 1B. The country is moving to have a specialized dedicated docket for evictions in the morning, not in the afternoon, just like we created our domestic violence court. I was the presiding judge at that time, but Judge Dalton, Judge Robinson, and Judge Walker were working to be the designated domestic violence court judges, but it took us about 3 or 4 years to get that developed. That is something that I want to see that we can do in Nashville, is to have 3 or 4 judges that are dedicated to an eviction docket. I hate the word eviction, so I'll call it diversion, but a housing docket, if you will. I believe that having the case managers in place will help us continue to grow that, and then we won't be trying to figure out how to repurpose and put those pieces back together. So with the case management, they will be there no matter how the case lands. If it lands in 1A, 1B that morning, if it lands in 1A and 1B within 15 days, if it lands in the transfer docket that we have, the tenant and the landlord will have a case manager, they're called now program navigators, along the journey with their eviction. There's probably about 10 evictions a day, give or take, that have trials in our court, some more than others. But a lot of the time, the tenant doesn't have any advocate at all. They're just there. Yeah, I'll get out, I'll leave. And then they don't understand you've got to vacate within 10 days. They don't understand at all. And Legal Aid Society only has the capacity right now to be there 2 days a week. So without the housing navigators, how do we get them connected to those individuals the other 3 days, but then also working with them along the journey those 5 days? Legal Aid Society's done a phenomenal job advocating as their lawyer, but connecting the people to the resources is very important. Case management. So that's how I envision immediately, just making sure that we help those people in 1A and 1B, the landlords and the tenants, and then seeing that we can create a very similar model that we did with our domestic violence court and carve out this dedicated space. We don't have as many personal injury cases that are filed. We don't have as many car accident cases that are filed. We don't have as many breach of contract cases that are filed. Evictions are the volume is astronomical. So we need to get to a dedicated docket for them Monday through Friday in the mornings. In Memphis, they have that. I believe in Knoxville, they have that. Nashville, we're very unique because all of our judges rotate on a schedule. We don't have just civil courts and just criminal courts. Every general sessions court judge rotates on an 8-week schedule. And so it's going to be important to dedicate that. Right now, our domestic violence court judges, 3 at a time, they work that particular docket for 4 months, and then another judge works that docket for 4 months, and they're always able to have domestic violence cases every week with the same rotation of judges. And it's actually it's pretty phenomenal how we are able to carve that out, and that's how the Gene Crow Center came about, and the Family Life Center, and those other efforts. So I think that's a long range goal. We're all reelected for 8 years, and so I think we can get there with this group of judges. I think so. There's a lot of interest in it from my colleagues. So.
Councilwoman Sepulveda?
Thank you, Judge, for being here and for all of your work. So I have known about your work and Mac's work and legal aid on a very intimate level. One of the things I didn't expect when coming into this role is the amount of evictions I would have to be dealing with, and not just from my district, but from all of the districts, because I've had to help several of my colleagues with constituents who don't speak English.
Right.
And having to navigate that whole thing and having to find lawyers that are available before we had right to counsel. And those are the people that we were able to reach, right? Sometimes we would learn after the fact that some people had their lights turned off illegally. I've had to deal with that. I've had to get on the phone and talk to landlords and apartment complexes, and then they get scared and they backtrack a little bit. But it's been a very long process, and I absolutely agree that this is needed. One of the things that our courts struggle with are translators, right? And I think everyone knows this, but we have such a large number of people who don't speak English who are being evicted, and not just eviction, but our court system in general, right? And so we're lucky sometimes that we'll have people who are able to translate, but when they're not there, then those cases they'll have to sit there and wait until a translator comes or whatever the situation might be. So my question is, these 2 positions that you are planning to hire, would one of them be Spanish speaking?
Yes, and when we first created this program, I did hire a Spanish-speaking individual, and yes, I think it's very, very important that they are specifically working with this program, and they're right there, boots on the ground. We don't have to wait for them to come from another courtroom. They're right there, and every Spanish-speaking individual was assigned to her at that time.
Yeah.
So yes, that is very, 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 very important.
All right. Well, I like I said, I'm very much in support of these 2 positions. I know how much it's needed, and I had the conversations with Mac when it was under Mac, and it's been a very difficult process. So I'm glad that as a city, we're getting to the point where we'll have these in-betweens that will be able to connect people. So thank you for bringing this to us.
I think I misspoke earlier because I just met Troy. It's Troy White, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I have met with so many people, and I've met him only one time, and by Zoom. And so, yeah, we've been working together with Will Chopin mostly, the attorney for MDHA. But I was correct. I was like, I know I said that wrong, so I wanted to correct myself. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. You're right. It is important, and the city's done a great job with it. But we've got to keep it going and keep developing and keep working, because Nashville is under a crisis I don't think we've seen just yet. We've got to get, keep the pieces in place.
Councilman Gamble? Yep.
Thank you. Thank you for your work, Judge Bell, in this space. Very much needed, as you have outlined so eloquently for us. Just one question. The $150 request, that is for the 2 positions for 1 year. Does that include benefits? I mean, is that the full number?
On page 3, and I'm glad that I did talk to Mary Jo, and I appreciate that. We weren't sure what the price range would be, but I did have my HR team pull together what the 2 positions would be. And so on page 3 of the your envelope or your folder, program manager 1 is at $57,895, and then you add the benefits, it comes to $84,200, and then program manager 2, which would be the licensed, hopefully social worker with the LSM or MSW, would be $63,609, which is a $91,000 with the salary and the fringe. It is hard, very extremely hard in Nashville to find anybody that's going to come and make $40,000 a year to do this work, and that's what my position right now is. The person is still doing the work.
But when you're looking at sustainability, you
Yes.
need to have
Yes.
be more competitive with that.
Right, and
salary.
these were close to the salary positions that we did have with MAC, and just trying to keep the balance and get some good work, get some good qualified staff members in this position.
So with this, what you sent us on page 3, I guess that comes up to what, 175? So
175, 200.
175. And when we look at sustainability, do you foresee that this 175 is something that could be included in your budget going forward after this 1 year, or do you foresee needing some lead time into that so that we might consider that we might need to add more to the budget? What do you see as far as sustaining the 175? And when would that start? Would that start June 1? What would be the time frame for that?
I am hoping that it could have started yesterday for these positions, because the evictions are going up, and this one person that we have right now has been called on a lot, and he really can't keep up with the capacity of it. So if there could be an emergency hire right now, as I told you, the evictions are just 600 filed in December. Now all these are still pending. So it's over maybe 1,200, 1,500 evictions that are in the queue that are being heard every day, and those people are being evicted within 10 days to vacate. It is Christmas time, so a lot of landlords are lenient, but you're going to see a lot of evictions happening in the middle of January. It would be my request that we could have this as an emergency hire. It would also be my request if you give a recommendation to the council from this committee, that then I would go before the council and share again, and then they will put it in. I'm not sure how y'all handle all of that. What's it called? A what? Okay, yes, FY24 budget, and then with my team, when we present our budget, that I would ask for these positions to be put in a business unit that I was able to create a couple years ago for the Music Community Court. So we have a business unit now with 2 positions in there, and then that business unit would add these other 2 positions if we had funding to yield that. If our general fund doesn't have it in joint sessions, then I would come before the council and ask for you to fund that from the city's budget with your assistance. I don't know how y'all handle all that part,
Right.
but
But that's You got it. That's kind of how the process goes. So as far as this 175, we're looking at like January 1, trying to get those positions filled. So that would take you through one calendar year, probably. Because, well, your fiscal year is the same as Metro, so you're July. So half of it will go for this fiscal year, 23, and then the other half will go for 24.
So then maybe I would ask for some lead time so that I could get it into our operating general fund for General Sessions Court. And then if there's a yes, then move it into the business unit for the Mississippi Community Court.
So how would that work, Mary Jo? Would that be half of like what we just did for?
Yeah, essentially, this would not align completely with the Metro budget. It could get close depending, hiring can be a little time consuming. So if somebody was on board by March 1st, then you'd essentially have, till the following March 1st, and you might have about a 2-month gap to, if there was no funding in the FY24 budget, this would get you to almost June 30 of 25, but maybe not quite. So that's where then you would need the funding for sure to be secured by FY25, if not 24. The other thing that Judge Belli could consider is just putting in some of the funding for FY24. I don't think they do partial months, but you could put in for one person. So then you would have some of that funding so that when this ran out, there would be some money in the FY24 budget. So it's kind of balancing the positions. It's usually by a full position in a budget year. They don't really, I don't think that we budget partial months. Councilwoman Johnston, and then I have Sean Henry.
Thank you. Just to sort of piggyback on Councilor Gamble, so it's a little irritating to me that we funded something, I guess out of CARES, correct? These positions for 2 years?
They actually came out of the emergency rental program that was part of.
But it was one-time funds, whatever it came from. It was one-time funds, knowing how important this is. And so here she is. She had it paid for. Now the funding has run out. Now we're scrambling around trying to figure it out. Oh, God, because it's important, obviously. It's needed. But we're not looking ahead to the future to say, hey, this needs to be in the operating budget. This should have been in FY23's operating budget, and we shouldn't have to be sitting here, is my irritation. So, because again, this isn't sustainable. These are one-time funds. And so I'm not fighting against it. I'm for it. This is not an irritation at you. This is an irritation at our process. It's critically important that if we are going, because we talk about sustainability all the time, if we are going to fund positions from a pilot type perspective, which sounds like what it was a couple of years ago with these one-time funds, wherever they came from, it's critically important that we plug those things into the operating budget as we see that those pilots are successful. Otherwise, what was the point? So I think, that's the question is, $150,000, number one, isn't even enough for these two for 1 year. It's $175,200. If we are going to fund it in the FY24 budget, which would pass and be effective July the 1st of 2023, then $150,000 is actually probably plenty, because we're talking about less than 6 months. It's going to take you some time to hire. We're talking about less than 6 months of salary and fringe. But if it's not, 175 isn't going to do it, because then she's looking at a year and a half of need with a prayer that it's in FY25's budget. So, this isn't a question. This is, I guess I'm on a soapbox, but it's important to understand that. Like, what are we doing here? If we're going to spend this money, it has to be, we have to think about it from 100% stability, and the only thing stable is the operating budget. So I'll move for, I don't know what the number needs to be. If you want to keep it at 150 and just beg and plead with the administration to put this in their budget for FY24, then 150 is fine, right? I don't know what the answer is.
Well, and I don't want to speak for Judge Bell. The 150 was an estimate. I bet she would be happy if it was the 175.
So I'll move
200
to
now that
increase it
she
to
knows.
175, 200 to have a full year handled. But again, this needs to go into the FY24 budget. I'm hoping everybody's going to give me an amen on that, because they're in the process of creating this budget right now. And it's a lot easier if it comes from the administration in the original budget versus us trying to amend it, because when we amend it, we have to rob Peter to pay Paul. If it gets in the original budget, it's clean. So whoever's listening, FY24, we need these positions fully funded. But anyway, I did make a motion.
I've got a second. I know I've got one more question. Nothing from, okay. Okay. Any other questions or comments? I have a proper second. All in favor? Any opposed? No abstentions? Okay, an abstention, okay. So that gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor. Oh, okay. Thank you. All right, I have 7 in favor, 0 against, and our lead sponsor will be Councilwoman Sepulveda.
Right. Thank you.
There's
you
the
all.
amen.
Thank you all for this, but I do want to say, if I can, I think we just didn't know what we were dealing with. I mean, you know, we're here now and we just got to keep going. But I think we just all maybe didn't really know what we were dealing with, honestly. I think we're just really trying to figure it out, but we're in a good spot. We're not without yet. But thank you for your remarks. Thank you all
Judge
for
Bell.
your attention.
Go ahead, and just while I was going to connect one other dot, and I don't know that you know this, Judge Bell, but at the last committee meeting, this committee recommended $5 million in renovations for Magruder Center.
Ooh, amen.
And so the connection here is when she refers to the Music City Community Court, the diversion court, that's at Magruder. So when we talk about serving the community and all the services that come out of Magruder, if you haven't stopped by Magruder, you should, and you'll see they have a really cool little courtroom.
It's really cool because when they get out of court, they can go right down the hallway to a culinary class. So they can go downstairs and get a food box if they need to. Classes, resume building. There's a cool cafeteria, well, not cafeteria, kitchen there. It's a wonderful place if you haven't gone to visit, but it has a lot of programming, Metro Social Services, WIC, this everything a person needs that's dealing with marginalized life. They have the answer there at Magruder. So you want them to remember, not the Justice Birch building. You want them to remember, go to the Magruder Center when you need something. So thank you guys for this. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up on the agenda, we have Office of Family Safety, and I don't see anyone here. I think they did a really good job. It is the updated one that I sent to y'all. So if you got the second email, I have a hard copy, and I am more than happy to go through it as I read through it. I feel like we can do it justice by moving forward, but if anybody has questions or wants to wait, we can. I guess I'll do a little bit of the background. This committee earlier awarded funding to Office of Family Safety. It is a Metro department, predominantly in interpersonal and domestic violence. And so the funding was for case managers, and OFS came back and asked me probably 3 or 4 months ago, a couple things that they've now realized as a result of the funding. Probably the first thing they realized right away is that what they submitted didn't include fringe. And as you see, that can be a fairly, another 20, to 21, 22%. So that was a fairly significant piece. And so if you're looking at the updated request, number 2 is to address that additional fringe. The second piece of the request is a crisis advocacy and case management position that they didn't already include, and salary and fringe is $142,000. And when we say to the term of the funding, this has a 6/30/24 end date on the use of the funds. So these are all at about 18 months. Is what they're asking for. So it's And then additional $20,000 for the case manager for mileage and parking and related expenses, just with the demand of going out to see clients. Specific assistance to individuals for $5,000, $25,000 for the case managers training and conferences. And again, those case managers are what were funded in the first award. And then $5,000 for MNPD therapists. So a lot of the work that OFS does are referrals or cases that unfortunately come through MNPD when they arise to that level. So that's additional. $10,000 said supplies. It was really supplies for the MNPD therapists. They just wanted that clarification. That's not a new amount. And then an additional $25,600 for supplies for the case managers includes a small piece for the MNPD therapists. So that's all outlined. I don't want to read the additional details, but the other things I wanted to point out, in number 1, they're asking about broadening the scope of case management to include crisis advocacy. I think they're just trying to be very specific so that the funds that originally awarded meet those criteria. And then at the very end, they also talk a little bit about they wanted to expand. I'm just going to read this then. The initial goal was to provide funds for clients coming to our family safety center. The client's needs have evolved, so therefore they wanted to expand the different transportation challenges, including mileage reimbursement and parking in some of the original funds. So I think it's pretty well laid out. That is the request. If we want to consider this today, or because nobody's from OFS, I don't know if we have a lot of questions. I won't be able to answer much beyond this. Any questions, thoughts, Councilwoman Gamble?
Thank you. I had questions about the supplies request, how they differentiate between the MNPD therapists and the manager's supplies, but you wouldn't be able to answer that.
Yeah.
But that was just one question that I had. It looks like as far as the fringe, that's self-explanatory. We need that should have been included in the initial request, and we need to fund that. They're requesting an additional $20,000 for case manager mileage and parking. Yes, I do understand. Dealing with going to the community
Because there are 4 case managers, just for context.
Okay. Thank you for that reminder, because I couldn't remember. And then the specific assistance to individuals, what that $5,000 would contain.
And that sometimes is when somebody comes in for counseling, they either need money for transportation, it might be a place to stay, a safe place to stay, it might be clothing if there's been violence. So
the differentiation, I guess, between that and supplies, I guess, is just a question that I had. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? And does the committee want to take this up for vote? Or are there, okay. Okay, second. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Okay. All right, I've got 7 in favor, 0 against, and I will follow up just as a side note and share with the committee the response to the supplies question. Okay. All right, next, administrative expenses. That's where I get to ask for a little assistance with these funds. So back in June, if you remember, I just left the original explanation for staffing, compensation and benefits, but also third-party consultants. And a lot of that's going to come into final reviews and working through the final reporting and kind of like what I would call pre-audit work. External legal support, we still continue to I'll call double check with external counsel on certain items as far as eligibility and making sure that we're documenting things correctly. Bank fees, the miscellaneous is mostly some of the parking from these meetings, so our parking tickets and whatnot. So relatively speaking, we were looking at a total of $915,000. We're going to split it into two requests, and even that first request got reduced by what was left at the end of June. So this is just looking at the total $915,000 less what has already been awarded through a previous resolution. So the additional amount is $517,000. I've got Councilwoman Johnston.
Banking fees of 150, why are we paying banking fees?
For the transactions, once, the money is received, and so there is some interest income, but there's also interest expense. And the way Metro works is any expense has to be authorized to be charged. So we had to authorize expenses. So transactions, within the bank.
Like some of that, like wire fees and things like that, or
some of it is within Metro's own internal accounting. So some of it is whenever we have transactions, even among interfund bank transfers or our portion. So ARP funds are getting a portion of the total banking transactions. So even though we're not writing a lot of checks out of the account or ACHs or wires, when you get, think about it, when you get your bank statement, whatever your total fees are, they're getting allocated across all Metro accounts. And so we absorb a portion of those fees.
Yeah, I think this is another one that is self-explanatory. Of course, we need to make sure that we are prudent in allocating these funds, reporting, having consultants to make sure that we are keeping up with government, reconciliations.
Yeah.
That's very difficult. This is something that we need. And in that case, because of course we don't want to have to come back and find out that we have mismanaged and have other problems. So for that, I would like to make a motion that we approve these administrative expenses to ensure that we are meeting the U.S. Treasury requirements and administering these funds.
Or a second? Got a second? Any other questions? All in favor? Any opposed? I've got 7 in favor, 0 against. Thank you for that. Thank you. And Councilwoman Gamble will be the lead. Okay. I'm going to have Fabian come up and walk us back through the participatory budgeting. While he comes up, I'm going to kind of jump ahead. If you looked at the future agenda, a couple times you've seen a $3 million hold. And I'd like to call that a hold, and I'm going to do my best to articulate why. I'm not really asking that go to council as an awarded allocation. What's happening right now, and this is kind of a reminder of how this whole process has been through CARES Act and with American Rescue Plan and FEMA. And FEMA's kind of this outlier. Some cities chose not to go through FEMA because it was really complicated, but we've been filing as many expenses that were deemed eligible by FEMA regulations related to COVID. We've been filing those with FEMA. And once FEMA would obligate those, we would take them out of ARP funds or CARES Act funds and report them over to FEMA. And so we would never have double reported them. But we are at the point now where all of our expenses through June 30th of 2022 all have to be filed with FEMA by December 31st. So we have filed those, but we haven't heard back on whether everything will be funded. We have some good ideas from early on what we filed and what was funded, so we think we're pretty accurate, but it's possible that FEMA could come back and deny some of those claims, and we haven't reported them in CARES Act, and if we don't have some funds available in ARP, then we'll be left with essentially a bad receivable from FEMA. FEMA's going to say, sorry, you can't, we're not going to fund it, and then we'd have to like go through some kind of general fund supplementary budget. So better to reserve some of these ARP funds for, because they're all COVID-related expenses. So they would all be eligible. We just are trying to optimize with FEMA. And I think are we about 45 million that we have filed? We have filed about $45 million in COVID expenses with FEMA. So we really have optimized that. And we really have, I mean, if I may say, thanks to consultants who really know what they're doing, they have done an amazing job filing and working with FEMA, but it is a long process. It is very long. So we don't anticipate that we'll hear of all of those claims. It could be over a year, and then if there's any debate and we file an appeal, it'll be a couple years. So when I say hold, I don't necessarily want to, and we can if we want, we can file a resolution that's holding those funds. I just don't, they're not on reserve in the sense of we're just going to use them as a little piggy bank reserve. I just don't want Metro to end up with these uncollectible receivables when that's exactly what ARP funds would reimburse us. So I wasn't going to ask for that today. I just kind of wanted to show how I am kind of holding that.
So you're not asking for it today. I think everybody understands that that's necessary. Do we have to legislatively handle that in order to hold for that specific deal?
I think we will eventually need to do that.
Well, then why don't we go ahead and do it?
Well, and here's my reason why. And this goes into a little bit about allocations and requests for the future. Fabian, sorry, if you'll just hold for a minute, then you'll get the rest of the time.
We just wanted to see your pretty face.
You'll get the rest of the time. You can see on, I keep referring to it, but if you have it or opened it, this is all that's left. And it shows that we would, if we did that, we would still have roughly $2.5 million left. One of the things that that Wade is working on is, and it's going to really happen more in January, we have awarded, it's not all approved yet, but just say roughly, $250-ish million. And some of that is a year ago at this point. And so we're tracking with the departments. They all kind of have that new budget of ARP funds, and we want to see where everybody is in their spending. It's possible that there will be unused funds. And we're getting a little bit further along to know if some of those are going to be unused. So while it looks like maybe there's 2.5 million, there might be another 2.5 million. There may be 5 or 6. And I feel like this committee would rather know, hey, we still have, if we have 6 or 7 million, that feels different than 2.5. I don't want this to be just a trickle out at the end. I think it should still be impactful, but I think it would be more helpful to you to know, well, do I have 2.5 million, or do I have 10 million, or do I have, 5 or 6? And so even that 3 million, by the time even a couple more months to know that number, even gives us a little more time with FEMA to know what some of those numbers are. So that's why I was saying maybe we don't need to do it just yet. I just wanted this committee to always have in their head, we're not going to give away the last penny before we make sure we don't have uncollectibles from FEMA.
What happens to, let's say we've made all of our allocations, we feel like our job is done, there's probably still going to be, unused funds or this, that, and the other. Do we meet again to figure that out, or is there a place where that goes that, and I'm not talking about millions of dollars, obviously, we're talking about the true ups, the pennies left over relatively. Where does that go?
So if you remember with CARES Act, what we did, and I don't know if this is the right word, but kind of that balancing piece was public safety salaries. We said if we award, a $2 million grant and the person the organization spends $1,980,000, well, then we have this $20,000 left over. We don't want to keep bringing those small amounts back. We'll say that number will then be used by public safety salary, because then we used public safety salaries as our savings to create the ability to continue to spend CARES Act funding into the next fiscal year. And we are just about to file that final report. It seems like forever ago, but we'll have a full accountability of that. So you'll know exactly what that public safety salary turned out to be. So whether you want to call that kind of that adjusting variable, that toggle, like it could be more or less, depending how good our estimates are. Now, ARP's different. Everything is very specifically, so we won't have more left. I mean, we won't have less left, but we could have more left over. Fabian doesn't even know that I'm about to suggest this, but because of the amounts and we don't know how much it is, we may want to say, what if we added that to participatory budgeting? What if we added that to, what is that one thing that we all agree is well spent and there's already a process in place that this committee doesn't have to come back to that process, and there's already a process in place. So you don't have to come back and rethink it. You don't have to come back and put in a new grant program. You don't have to come back. We can just say, hey, if there's whatever that couple $100,000 might be, becomes part of the next participatory budgeting. But we don't have to decide that today. Councilwoman Gamble? I couldn't see Fabian's face to see if there was a reaction to what I said.
Thank you for that explanation, and I agree with you that we probably shouldn't make a legislative decision on this today, but a question that I have is that in addition to being able to designate it to something that we wouldn't have to come back to the table for, is there an opportunity, since these funds don't have to be allocated until 2026, is that correct?
2024, they have to be
spent by
obligated.
2026, okay, 2024. Is there opportunity? I know we have a wait list of organizations that have submitted proposals for worthy causes that we decided we weren't going to take up at this time. However, if within a few months we're getting funding back to add to what's left, would there be an opportunity, if the committee so wants to, come back together and look at that wait list of organizations and requests and consider funding those?
Yeah, and I have currently, I believe it's 3, and then I just got a 4th one this week of a request. And that's what I have said to them. One of them was an internal department, 3 are other nonprofits. And so I just have that list, and that's, again, this committee can decide, like, hey, we don't want to see that yet, but let's get a better idea of how much funding we have left. So that was the other thing that I actually wanted to touch on when I said, allocations and requests. How do we want to continue? It's still kind of, as people are sending them to me, and I think some of you have all said, like, yeah, we don't know that there's funds left, but you should send whatever you want to Mary Jo because she's keeping the list. So we can continue to do that. We can put a really short pause, which would be, let's have another meeting in February. Let's not meet in January. Let us look at some of the projections. Let us go through what we think is left over, or I don't even want to say left over, because you're right. We could look at this in 2 or 3 months, but it's going to even look different a year from now. And so we probably have to look at it again then, unless we make a decision between now and then that says we're just going to not make any, we're just going to make our final allocation be whatever is left over to X. And we can decide on that. You guys can be thinking about it. That's not something I think we even want to get to deciding today. But we can also just do a short pause, and I can give you some updates in February. And then the other thing that this committee is tasked with is to start looking at some of the reports. So we are getting monthly reports from, monthly or quarterly on some of them, and we would like to bring those to you. And so that's the other thing that we can kind of do, that little pause, and then start meeting quarterly maybe. So if nobody's opposed, we could just set another meeting for February. I kind of looked in between council weeks. I think February 15th is a Wednesday. It's in between council weeks. So I'll go ahead and reserve that. I'll put it on everybody's calendars. So that would be the next time that we'd look at what's available, and we can take a little bit of a game plan from there. Okay. That's all that I had. And so I'm going to turn it over to you, Fabian. I'll just give quick reminder. I think I tried to do it in that email that highlighted, we first heard about participatory budgeting in October, and not going to put words in your mouths. We could replay the tape. There was, kind of unanimous, interest and approval of saying 10 million sounds great. There was some question about logistically how to allocate that up across the county. And immediately following that meeting, Fabi and I talked, and I said to him, I said, could you help us with the math? Because when I had the chance to talk to him, I really felt like the math worked from the way that it was weighted and from the fact that there were 5 votes and that we wouldn't be at risk of people only voting on the one thing that's closest to them. And so when he and I talked, he said, yes, I can put some things together. So rather than trying to create a special meeting of the council and having the council decide how it was going to get split up, we really think it was more efficient to come back to this committee and take another crack at explaining how the voting really will work out, and that we probably want to keep with the process that's already in place because it was proven and it exists, and we're not recreating something from scratch. So without saying any more, I'm going to turn it over to the expert.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary Jo.
Oh, let's grab the, oh yeah, I think you're good.
Thank you, Mary Jo, and thank you for the committee for giving me a chance to come and talk to you all. There is a couple of things that I wanted to bring to your attention. One was I sent you, like Mary Jo said, that write-up that I put together, just trying to address issues of equity and how we could be inclusive around the city. And after analyzing the different scenarios that we discussed during the meeting, and I actually took the time to talk to some national experts, we continue to feel very strongly that there was just one equitable scenario, and that was the one that is number 3 on the write-up that we sent you. And to try to illustrate that, we tried to put together this Excel file that if you spend some time trying to work with it, you will see that no matter what, we have 4 buckets of money, and that the area that has the bigger vulnerability will always get a bigger share of the money, and so that we were meeting the requirements of the Affordable the Recovery Act ARP in terms of SBI. Obviously, another concern that I heard here was about outreach, and I just wanted to make sure that you all knew that it was an important component of the process to work with outreach. Again, on that, we are following national standards to have an emphasis on the more vulnerable Nashville residents, and we are planning on partnering with local entities that are trusted in the community, and that, when we try to work with the unhoused community, that we'll work with an entity that works with the unhoused people, and like that with all the different communities, because this will only work if we are as effective as we can in reaching out to everybody that is usually left out of the process. But the other thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is that the council has approved in the past 2 cycles of participatory budgeting, and the way they do it is they approve it, and then the steering committee is created locally that comes up with the guidelines, with the process that they're going to follow to implement the process. And a concern I had about creating a very rigid framework before the ARP steering committee comes together is that we were limiting the ability to self-govern, to create their own local Nashville rules for implementing this process. So what we are planning on doing is giving them this framework that we feel is the more equitable. But then for a number of months, the steering committee is going to go over the process and arrive to a set of guidelines that will really work to be as effective as possible in implementing this process. So I'm just asking that you guys consider giving the steering committee the ability to implement this process, and that you trust that we've done it before twice, and that the steering committees did an excellent job in creating very good, equitable processes to spend the money that was allocated by the city. So that's what I'm coming to ask, and to see if you have any question about the write-ups that I share with you.
Councilwoman Campbell?
Thank you, Fabian, for putting together this scenario case, because that does kind of answer to why dividing into geographic zones and things, some of the suggestions that were made the last time we were together on this wouldn't work for this particular project. I do have a question, though, about the methodology in the regions. You have here Region A, B, C, and D, the funding that will be allocated and the population. How are these regions broken down in your report?
We work with Greg Claxton at the planning department, and he gave us data that is based on national numbers from the CDC. And that's the map that you see. The other map that Cody gave you, it shows the different areas on the city. They are based on census tracts, and they analyze the number of variables from, they're all really the definition of an SBI high number is, it shows us the region on the city that will be less likely to recover from an emergency. And so that's why we are using that number to look at the more vulnerable areas that need more help. And items that are placed on those higher vulnerable areas will have a higher access to the share of the funds. So the higher the SBI, the higher the amount of money that will be for that bucket. So let's say somebody is in Green Hills voting, and he'll be able to vote for an item in their own area, but he'll also be able to look at the ballot and see, okay, here is an item that is on a high vulnerable area. I want to support that, so I'm going to vote for an item on District 30 or on a part of Antioch or Bordeaux or Nashville. I'm going to help that community get this project completed.
So the regions are divided by the SVI, which is the Social Vulnerability Index.
That's right.
Thank you. I just also want to say that because I was a part of the participatory budgeting pilot, which covered North Nashville, Bordeaux, and Whites Creek area, my area being Whites Creek, was very impressed, and that was the first time around. So I'm sure you all have worked out kinks by now, but very impressed on the steering committee. This process was totally community driven. The steering committee, the budget committee were all community volunteers that were, most of them were people who have been active in the community, but then some were recommended by council members. I recommended folks from my area for the steering committee. So I agree that this is the most equitable way that you all have been, the way that you all have been doing it is the most equitable way to do it on a countywide basis. And the fact that you're really focusing on the distressed area, the social vulnerability areas, again, makes it so that we know that we're addressing the areas that need it the most. And so for those reasons, I supported it the last time, supported this time, and whenever everybody's questions are asked, we'd like to make a motion that we move forward with it.
Okay, I've got a couple in the queue. Jose, did you have a question?
This may have been answered before, but if so, just refresh my memory. Of the 10 million, how much is distributed? Or is there a percentage of that that you're going to spend on like all the outreach, and if so, how much?
Yeah, there is a percentage that we are setting aside for outreach. For example, we are going to do an accessibility fund to be able to cover the need to have translators and people to help with people with disabilities and interpretation. So that's going to be covered out of that. Engaging with partners will also include some kind of a grant to the entity that is going to take on this job. So yeah, there'll be prints, there'll be mailers, there'll be a massive outreach to try to connect with everybody. And the percentage that we established so far is 7% of the budget to go towards outreach.
So it's fair to say that 93% of the money will end up for actual projects, 7% is the admin cost.
That's correct.
And this other one is, the voting, are you going to do this different times, lump up projects, voting days? Is there one day to vote? Like, walk me through that.
Yeah. The way it works in Bordeaux and North Nashville is we ask the steering committee to decide how they want to do the voting. And so I expect the same will happen here, and we will ask the steering committee to tell us. But the way they've done it in the past is that Bordeaux and North Nashville allocates 1 month for people to vote. They can vote online or on paper. And they can either physically go to the local library and vote there on paper. Obviously, we rather people vote online. We use Have Nashville to do it because it allows us to be more expeditious in the process.
So it's getting, I'm getting in the weeds, but it is just trying to understand the process. It's very likely like that there will be months at a time that there will be voting happening. And that there would be the expectation from citywide, like the community will be aware there for the next 5, 6, 10 months, there will be log in every month because there's different set of projects that you're voting on. If we're saying this is an open voting process and we want the entire community in the county to vote, that's how it's going to play out at the end of the day. Correct?
No, actually, what they do is they get the ballot that the budget delegates put together, and for about a month, they get to vote for 5 items on the ballot all at once. So maybe they get 35 items on the ballot, and then they will be able to choose 5 of those items and vote for them. But that will happen after the budget delegates are done creating the ballot. So it will happen probably late in the year, maybe August, September, after. We don't want to combine this with city elections because we saw in past years that people get confused. And so we want to separate the two and just give this its own real estate, so to speak. But yeah, they'll be voting for about a month if that's what the steering committee wants to do. If the steering committee wants to make it even longer, they can choose to do that, and then we'll honor their request. The steering committee knows the community, and they are the ones that fine-tune the process on how to implement it. But the way it's in Bordeaux and North Nashville, they'll vote for 1 month for all the items all at once.
But yeah, again, but there's multiple steering committees.
No.
There's one steering committee for all of the projects in the county.
There is one steering
committee. So they
committee.
decide there'll be a period. That answers my question. So there's not the it is one period. It might be a 4, 5, 6 week period based on what is decided that it's going to, the attention to the voting process will be drawn county-wide, not multiple times in different projects around the city at multiple times during the year.
That's right. It's very important to have a transparent process. So we ask people to participate, to be poll watchers, and we engage and we encourage people to be volunteers and to help us keep this process honest and transparent. We want people to believe in the results, and it's their results, it's their process, so we try to work with them to empower them to do so. And that's part of the accessibility fund that we are going to try to do, is make sure that we have as clear, as transparent communication with everybody that is interested in participating.
Okay, I've got Sarah Finley and then Councilmember Johnston.
Yeah, thank you very much for the follow-up presentation and materials. Just to make sure I'm reading this right, so should we basically use this color code to say yellow is Region A and the light green is Region B?
Yes.
Teal, okay. Because it is interesting how a couple of the zones are really pretty far flung in terms of
Yeah, and that really made it harder to be able to do the very equal separation of the county into regions, because really the more vulnerable areas are where they are. It's not. I mean, we use objective data. We didn't want it to politicize this or anything, so we asked the planning department, give us some objective data we can use, and that's how this map came to be. And as you can see, it's not even contiguous. I mean, you have a spot of high SBI, and then away there's another SBI high spot, and so we even thought about, can we combine all these SBIs and create 4 physical regions? But it wasn't possible to do because of the way the things are. You know, people live that way. Those are their regions. That's where they are distributed, and we're just using the data as it is.
And the second question was just, and I think maybe you mentioned this last time, but just the thinking behind having voting at the 8th grade level rather than higher than that.
Well, we see in other cities that they start at 16. The board of Nashville steering committee wanted to put it at 14. So they are the ones that are going to decide really what stage they want to do it. We are going to try to have steering committee members that are younger, so they are represented in the process. For the steering committee to be representative, it has to be representative. So we are going to try to get people from all backgrounds on the committee, and we're going to rely on the council members to help us with that. The goal is that we have seen in other cities when the young people participate, they can find things to solve that the grown-ups missed. And there have been cases, one that comes to mind in Atlanta, where they implemented PV, and the kids felt unsafe about getting to school because one curb wasn't protected. And so they put it on the PV to have this curb protected so the kids could actually walk to school, and that became a high voting item on the participatory budgeting process, and it got funded. So giving people the opportunity to provide the ideas that express what they want is also what is going to get them out to vote. If you live next to a park, we saw it in Borderland of Nashville. They massively voted for playground equipment and bathrooms and traffic safety issues and bus shelters. These were all things that they wanted. And if the budget delegates give them opportunities to vote for things they like, they'll vote. And at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want people to participate and be engaged. And so having young people might make a difference. But it's up to the steering committee at the end to fine-tune, what the rules are going to be.
Thank you. So when you start this, let's say it's approved, we're doing this in January, first meeting in January. When would you expect, and you may have already answered this.
Sorry, just second meeting, because we would have to file by this Friday, right?
Oh, for the second meeting
For the first meeting.
Oh, for the first
I think
meeting
with the holiday.
Okay.
So this would be second meeting in January.
Okay. So when are you expecting to wrap up? The $10 million is done. We've done all these projects. What?
Traditionally, it takes about a year from beginning to end. We try to get it done before December so people don't have to be dealing with voting in the holidays.
Okay.
And then that way we can start implementing the choices in the following year. So we'll probably take a whole year to do it because, people are very passionate. When you see a steering committee debating on the rules or budget delegates trying to come up with a really good ballot, they'll spend months working at it.
Yeah, the reason I ask, and I'm not trying to amend anything, I just sort of want to bring it to everyone's attention, that we're going to be going through, what the council districts are now, today, is going to be different come August, September, whenever the election is effective. So part of one of these questions was to have a project in each council district. So just keep that in mind, that those are changing, and all of a sudden you might have 2, you might have none. I personally am not as interested in that. I feel like, and not to pick on District 34, but District 34 is in a very what is it, A? Is that how y'all did it? Region A. It's a very affluent area. And so to me, I would rather focus on the dark blue. But that's a whole other thing that we can talk about. So I would say probably less emphasis, and we may disagree, but I would say less emphasis on specific council district lines, which are pretty arbitrary in a lot of ways, and really focus in on the vulnerable areas that you're talking about in these dark blue and the teal color, and not leaving out the green, but just understanding. And then I don't know how you're going to explain that to people when it changes and we've started this, and I don't know, but just I foresee that being like, well, wait a minute.
That's really good feedback. And again, that's one of the things that we may indicate to the steering committee, that they have the liberty to, reduce or adjust how they implement the process to adjust for the limited number of council districts if that ends up happening. So, I mean, we want to preserve their independence and try to support them in their process. We want them to own it. We want them to be proud of it and advocate for it. And that's what is happening in Portland or Nashville, where the local steering committee members are extremely, proactive in pushing it forward.
Got Sean Henry?
I love this. Thank you for putting it together. I have two questions. A, I'm colorblind, so I see one district. So I think everyone's getting money. And who's on the steering committee? I'm sure I missed that, and I apologize. Or how is it formed?
We don't have a steering committee yet. It's going to be created with recommendation from each council member. And we believe that the council members know who are the best candidates for their district, and so we are going to ask them for help.
And then one more ad. What's the youngest you can be on the steering committee? Can you be 14 and above? That's great.
Now, that's where the accessibility fund comes to be, because on the first year we had a 16-year-old that couldn't really make it to the meeting. So we are going to have to look into transportation for people, or how the person is going to get in and out of the meetings. So there is going to be a lot of this that is going to be about enabling the process to be equitable and to work.
Any other questions? I've got a motion for approval. Oh, she was going to come back to you. We'll take your first and second. Any other questions, comments? All in favor? Okay. Anybody against? No abstentions? Abstention? Okay, so I've got 6 in favor, 0 against, and 1 abstention. All right.
Thank you for the committee to support this process, and I hope that you will stay involved during the implementation. Your feedback will be very welcome as we move it forward. Thank you.
Councilwoman Sepulveda, let me get your mic there.
I just wanted to state that my abstention is due to a conflict of interest.
Excellent. Yes, thank you. All right. That is everything. I kind of went ahead on the agenda. So, Councilwoman Sepulveda, mic is yours.
Sorry, I just wanted to know where we landed. So are we having a meeting in February so we could see how many funds we were anticipating and having? That way we could also see if we want to take a look at the nonprofits and other agencies that have submitted recently, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
So February 15th, I'll send you all calendar requests. We will have some updates on what I would call, additional funds available. We'll look at some of the reports that have already been sent in. We don't have to go through them line by line, but you'll have them in preparation of that meeting. That will give you an idea of what some of the projections of here's funds awarded to projected, end of expense. I can't say that anybody at this point is going to project that they're not going to use all the funds unless it was something really specific. If you think back, there might be an example of we funded some of the fleet. Well, if they've purchased all the vehicles and they have some funds left over because they were awarded X number of vehicles, or we look back and they could just use all of it for as many vehicles as possible. So we'll be looking at all of that to kind of give that report back on every resolution that was passed on what was spending. So we'll then have a better idea of what might be available, and we can say, what framework do we want for considering requests? Sarah?
Yeah, just along that line, as you know, I received information about a request that was sent in, and what instructions should we give similar inquiries? I've been
Send
one
it
of
to
those
me.
that just say, send it to Mary Jo. That's what I've been saying.
Yes.
But in terms of telling someone whether it is, quote, too late, or whether there's an opportunity for them to be heard, what is the accurate response in terms of where we stand with potential organizations seeking requests?
So I think there's an opportunity to be heard. I think what we're going to do in February is decide how this committee do we just want to take, as we have been, kind of if you submit, I put everything out there and say, here's the 10, here are the 10 organizations that I've heard from. Do you want them on the agenda, or are some of these, you're like, no, we've either already heard from that organization or we've already funded a lot in that area of work. So we're going to pick these 8, split them up, put them on 2 more agendas, and there's 2 more months meetings. That's up to the will of this committee. So what kind of structure do we want to put in place? But if it is going to be as simple as they submit to you, you let us know who has, and we'll tell you if we want to hear them on the agenda. And that's what we've been doing so far. But numbers show there's definitely opportunity. What I want this committee to be able to do is say, there might be a difference in your minds of saying, well, if there's just 2 million left, I don't want to do this big grandiose framework. Let's just handle with what comes in. Well, if there's $8 million left, maybe we want to do something different. So I think that would matter. So we'll have a better idea. We won't have exactly what it is in February. We're not even going to be close, guys. We're going to be knowing that like a year and a half from now. But we'll have a better idea. Councilwoman Gamble?
This is very helpful, because even if we don't make a decision on how we want to move forward in February, we'll be able to look at some of the reports and see some status updates. The council will be starting with budget in February, so maybe that we want to wait until that next quarterly meeting before we consider if we're going to look at any more, how we're going to deal with the remaining of the funds anyway. So just wanted to put that out there.
All right. I don't hear anything else. We are adjourned. Thank you. And Merry Christmas.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.